Welcome back. This is K24 This Morning. We're looking at the big stories of the day, all courtesy of our newspaper review. Don't forget, in the show, you could get yourself 250 shillings worth of airtime, and it's very simple. All you need to do is download your copy of Your People Daily to your phone. The number that you need to download your copy is *550*4#. Once again, the number is *550*4#. Download your copy of Your People Daily. It'll only cost you 10 shillings. Once you do that, take the screenshot of that on your phone. Send me your name and where you're watching us from, and you get yourself 250 shillings worth of airtime. It's all brought to you by the People Daily and Safaricom. And I want to do that before I leave this particular segment. So get cracking on it, even as we discuss the big issues of the day. As we do that, of course, as well, in studio joined by Derek Otieno and Mark Mwenje via Skype. Ruth Ambogo also in the conversation, talking about what we're waking up to this morning as far as our dailies are concerned. The Star's an interesting headline, even before we leave this Kemsa story and move to matters politics. EACC summoning Murathe over Kemsa scandal. Initial probe shows he's a signatory of Kilig, a firm he has since disowned on this. And Murathe has been very vocal about very many things, some of which we'll also be talking about here between him and the DP. But on this one, for a person who's not in any investigative agency, but yet has so much information, doesn't work for Kemsa as well, yet he seems to know more than even the detectives on the companies, the directors, and what's going on there. Is he then critically the person of interest who should really be answering questions? Not even Manjari on this one, Mark.
Murathe is an interesting character. You have to know that he's the vice chairman, Jubilee Party. And really, he's the guy behind Jubilee together with Tuju. They're the two main guys who run there. So, obviously, and by virtue of Jubilee being the governing party, obviously he's involved in government. And he's been there. He's been there doing a lot of things behind the scenes. Murathe never wants to have an official position. But of course, he's a businessman. I'm sure he's doing business.
He calls himself a consultant. That's what he says.
That's what he says so many times. But now here, we have an issue here. For the longest time, he's called others that I don't want to mention their names right now and say, those are thieves, those are thieves, those are thieves. Now it's come back to him. So you've got to answer on some of these issues that are going on. And it's so unfortunate, bearing in mind that Murathe being so close to the president, and at some point when he speaks, some people interpret that he's speaking on behalf of the president. Personally, I don't think so. I think Murathe is a bit of a loose cannon.
Right.
He can say some things that even the president himself will be shocked and wonder, what just happened there? But by virtue of his closeness, and then in such an issue, and him being summoned by EACC, Waswahili alisema palipo na moshi,
panamoto. And that's what you think is going on here?
There's an issue here. He's got some things to answer. And his knowledge, as you said, his knowledge of so many things inside here.
Because he even told us that William Ruto apparently is part of the killing thing. Didn't he say that?
He did.
Oh, yeah, he did. But then it emerges that the gentleman is not even there at all. He accepts that he knows some of the guys involved in that farm that brought all this mess to Kemsa. But as he said, he's a loose cannon, and he has a loose tongue at times, sorry to say that, and he makes more of atoli statements on behalf of some people when they don't even know that he's going to make the statement.
Let me pause you on that because I want to bring Ruth in on this conversation. Let me see if we can actually get her in on this as well. Ruth, front page of the Star, EACC summoning David Murathe over Kemsa scandal. The initial probe showing he's a signatory of Kilig, a firm he has since disowned. This man has been very vocal, talking about his stance as far as corruption is concerned, even why he had chosen to, resign from vice chair, because he couldn't be at a situation where there are corrupt people on the same table with him. Yet here we are, with him being a key person of interest on this one. How do you think this story plays out, Ruth?
Well, we all know that Murathe is a politician, and a lot of what politicians say needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. However, if in any way he is involved with the scandal, I mean, at this point, what Kenyans are saying is that anybody linked to the scandal in any way needs to face the law. I think I was listening to one of the panelists in the studio who was saying that at this point, just by going by what the president usually says, that, you know, he doesn't care whether you are his brother or sister or relative or close friend, that for as long as you're involved in corruption, then you need to be brought to the authorities. And I think if in any way he's involved, either by his own statements that he has made in the past, or one of his many companies that he talked about, you know, that he talked about consulting for, then he needs to be brought before the law.
Okay, and that's not the only thing we'll be talking about right here. I want to bring you back to studio as well and look at not only Murathe in terms of what's happening at KEMSA, but also the ruling party as it stands as of now. We look at the front page of your Daily Nation today. Ruto from power to opposition. The deputy president, in theory, ought to be second most powerful in Kenya. In practice, however, he's an outsider who has resorted to attacking his own government on this particular one. As it stands right now, do we have a Jubilee party to talk about, a ruling party that delivers a legacy, Mark?
I think we've gone back to what it was before, where we had, you remember before we had TNA and URP?
Mm-hmm. That's where we are.
So Ruto had his people and the president had his people. So we've gone back to that situation, only that this time, while that time it was based on regions where you're coming from, right now it's a bit skewed.
Right.
And quite a number of people from Central on Ruto's side openly disagreeing with the president, and he comes from a certain, they come from the same region.
Right.
So obviously, we can't say we have a ruling party, because if we can't even get a revenue bill passed with the Jubilee party that has the majority in the Senate.
A super majority.
Yeah, it's a super majority.
Yeah.
And they can't even get a revenue bill to go through. When you go to the National Assembly, apart from the fact that the handshake team came on board to try and push some of the agendas within the National Assembly, still, that would be the same problem that would be in the National Assembly as we are seeing in the Senate.
Right.
So obviously, we have a party that has the highest number of MPs in Parliament, in the National Assembly, and senators in the Senate. But obviously, they're not working as a team. So it's clearly we just have a party that is divided in the middle, and it's unfortunate because I don't think they can run the agenda for the country.
Right.
So, and then I think you've seen even some of, I think it was one Martha Karua was saying that now even Raila Odinga, who's supposed to be the opposition leader, is running the government agenda more than even the deputy president, who now seems to be
in the opposition.
And don't forget that there are quite a number of things that we've seen the president trying to push through. Especially, let's pick two things: BBI and the revenue bill. And it's clear that the deputy president is opposing that. It would be in a different. If we were going maybe to the US or somewhere else in the UK where you have government and opposition, it's very clear where everybody reads from. You have government pushing for this and the opposition putting a different position.
Yes.
In this case, we have the holders of the two highest offices in this country, the president and the deputy president, disagreeing. And that has translated down to the parties as well. I mean, Jubilee Party, where there's a division. So, in my opinion, we don't have a ruling party that can work the way we would have hoped for when they were voted in 2017.
Derek, you've said, and Mark has also emphasized this, the fact that even when you look at the party and the leadership of the party itself, a lot of disconnect going on right there. We've spoken about David Murathe, who you both say is a loose tongue. But really, if he wasn't speaking or it doesn't represent the views of the president, that loose tongue would have been reined in a long time ago. We've not seen that from other parties. When you look at ODM, they speak how the party leader wants them to speak. But on this one, why is it that some people say he could be speaking, he's not speaking, and the president is silent as all of this happens, and he is the party leader?
Jeff, we are in a situation, as my buddy has just said, where we don't know what's going on. We have a president who nobody respects, some people don't respect, somebody don't fear. In a proper setup like what we have in Kenya, where the Jubilee Party is the ruling party, they control Parliament and they control Senate, you'd have some fear from the legislators to the president, or some sort of respect. You see the cultic respect that Raila Odinga controls in this country. We don't have it in Uhuru Kenyatta. And that is something that is missing. I don't know whether it's his style of management. If it is, then he should go back and do some studies on running a political party and managing a country. We have a situation where Murathe speaks. Murathe told us that he had resigned from Jubilee last year, and it was front page in all the newspapers. But after 6 months, he came to tell us that he did not leave. It was not accepted. I don't know who was supposed to accept it. And he started running the party from deep inside, not even from the periphery, as Oscar Sudi could or somebody in Mombasa could.
Okay.
But then what we have is, it's not even a mishmash of parties. It is a torn party, tattered, directionless, spineless. They are absolutely going nowhere.
Let me get Ruth in on this one then as well, to weigh in on the state of affairs as it stands as of now. Ruth, you can see the front page of the Daily Nation right now, and it's been an increasing question as to how this really plays out with a deputy president and someone whose role constitutionally is a principal assistant of the president being sidelined, or so it seems from this, and other people getting more access, more control, more influence to the government agenda of the day. What does this mean for service delivery?
First of all, I think it would be good to analyze the genesis of this whole situation. We know that the deputy president and the president their fallout began with the onset of the handshake. And I think for me, for my personal view, the biggest mistake that Ruto made was when he began to sort of indirectly oppose the president and appear as if he was already embarking on his bid for presidency right after the handshake. So what this means for development, I mean, this is, for me, this is purely politics. And in any way, it shouldn't in any way affect service delivery. But from the look of things, we are seeing that, like, for instance, right now we look at the stalemate in Senate regarding the revenue allocation. This could simply be traced down to the breakdown in communication, to the breakdown in the Jubilee Party. The particular revenue statement that we're talking about can be traced down to that. So, from a personal point of view, I don't think that it should affect service delivery. But from the look of things, it appears that when the ruling party is divided, when there is no unity within the ruling party, then of course service delivery will be affected, because you will need members of parliament at some point to unite, to pass certain bills in parliament. You will need Senate to unite at some point and pass bills within the Senate. But when the party is divided along, when a ruling party is divided in the middle, as Jubilee Party is, then service delivery is definitely affected.
But Ruth, there's something interesting you've mentioned there, in the sense that the big debate also came in because Ruto was busy campaigning during this period. And for some Kenyans, they wonder exactly how was he campaigning, because at the end of the day, his job is to assist the president. We heard the president saying this man will be, in your areas. That's how the whole tanga-tanga phrase actually came to be. So, akitanga-tanga akuje kwenu, if there's any problem with the services or projects, tell him. He will report it to me. How was he campaigning? What was he doing that he shouldn't have been doing?
Remember what used to happen when the Ruto would go to, for example, central area region. And this is something that was in the public eye. You'd find members of parliament allied to him, accompanying him to central Kenya region. And then what they would do is that they would issue speeches right before he speaks. And in their speeches, you could clearly see that these members of parliament were directly or indirectly opposing the president. And when he would come up to speak, he would never say anything that would probably, let's say, for example, that would set aside the statements that had been said before him. So I think he took advantage of the leeway that he had been given to, traverse the country on behalf of the president, and began his campaign, if you look at it from that particular point of view.
Okay, and let me bring it to studio. And just, even if it was playing devil's advocate on this, let's assume, yes, the DP was out there campaigning in this particular, point in time, which is questionable. But let's not forget, even on the campaign trail, the president himself said, I'll do 2 terms, and then Ruto will do 2 terms. So from that statement that we've all heard, it's public knowledge, then we knew the only thing that the president would want after his term is to have the DP get in. Do you think that was a problem?
You know, I'll go one further with what you've said, 2 terms. It was clear the president said it. The other issue was that even the president himself, this is information that might not be there out publicly, but he did say to the members of parliament, when they had the first, I think, PG is that let us work for these 4 years. Even he himself will go and be the campaign manager for the deputy president.
Ruto, yes.
He actually said that, although it was a closed meeting, but the information came out and people found out. I think at that point, the president expected, let's finish this campaigning, yeah, and to bring down the political temperatures down. He had to deal with opposition leader Raila, who did not want to recognize him as president. So he was legally the president, but his legitimacy was questioned.
Right.
Yeah. So obviously, as the president, then he sought out to reach out to Raila, so that they could have a working mechanism.
Right.
Unfortunately, that was the genesis of the problem, because I believe in the deputy president's mind, he saw this is somebody who's coming to rock this house, and eventually he'll be the person at the top. And obviously, the deputy president will do what we know he's good at.
Right.
You know, the deputy president is a very good orator, having picked it from both Moi and Raila. I always like to think of him as a student of both. Because some of the things he does, you'll pick them from the deputy president, either from our former president Moi. You remember Moi was a very hardworking, wake up very early in the morning. Deputy president is the same way. And also his oratory skills. You see the way Raila charges a crowd. The deputy president does that kind of thing. So obviously, yes, he went out. And in that brigade of going out, and even if the president said they brought in the term tanga, it was an issue of him going out, and it seemed as though we were bringing back a campaign period. And now all of a sudden, it was about fighting Raila at first, and then eventually the president got involved, and all of a sudden you have a push and pull between these 3 individuals. I think that eventually went on to what the president would have hoped, or in his mind what I thought at that point when he said, let's work for 4 years, and on the 5th year, I'll go and campaign.
Right.
He thought, we've agreed on that deal.
Yes.
So anything else I do with Raila, this is the deal that we've made. And I would have hoped that the deputy president would have gone to the president and said, do we still have this deal?
Okay. Let's pause on that one, because I have some airtime I need to give away, of course, and it's very simple. What you need to do is download your copy of your People Daily to your phone. The number that you dialed, *550*4#. Once again, the number is *550*4#. Download your copy of your People Daily to your phone. It's brought to you by the PD and Safaricom. Once you do that, take a screenshot of that on your phone. Send it to the WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen. Just give me your name and where you're watching from, and I send you 250 shillings worth of airtime. We have more winners. Let's have them up on screen. My name is Marianne Modoni, and I'm watching from Udhero. Well, Marianne, for sending your copy of your PD, you get yourself 250 shillings worth of airtime. We have another winner. Let's have that up. Alex from Maragua as well, having gotten himself his copy of the PD, and as he does that, he gets himself 250 shillings worth of airtime. Then we have one more. Let's have that up. Kiptalam Ibrahim, watching from Nakuru. Thank you so much for being part of the show and downloading your copy of your PD. And of course, as you do that, you get yourself 250 shillings worth of airtime, all courtesy of the PD and Safaricom. Ruth, even as we talk about the fact that we had a very eager, perceptively, that is a very eager deputy president who was campaigning instead of working. When you think about it, really, if it was ever about judging the bigger sin on this, or the bigger transgression, you do have a man who went to Uhuru Park and swore himself in as the people's president. Surely, that can't be more than someone going around the country and campaigning, even as he goes to look at the projects that you're carrying out. You think?
So it's a question of which is the bigger sin here.
No, when you look at it, because
Well,
as it stands, no, Ruth, the reason I bring that out is because as it stands right now, clearly with the political dynamic, we have Uhuru much closer to Raila than he is to his deputy president. And if it's an issue of transgressions that have changed the dynamics of the relationship, it shouldn't be as is.
Well, in the first place, there was no relationship between Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. And what occasioned their relationship, I think, as the president has always said in the past, was that it was for the sake of national unity. So, and amongst other personal reasons that they have never revealed to date. So, if in the president's view that to bring together the country, he needed to come together with the opposition, now we can call him the then opposition leader, and see how they can work together towards a united country. Then the deputy president, all he needed to do was, respect his boss's view and find a way of working together with this new duo that had come together. So I don't know where the discomfort came in, because if they had agreed that at the end of this particular term, then he would take over leadership, he needed to just be patient and wait and see the end of the 5 years.
So you think
I think the mistake he made was failing to trust his boss, failing to understand, or rather failing to find a way of working with this new arrangement.
And of course, as they say in this particular scenario and in politics in general, power doesn't give a vacuum. It abhors, hates having vacuums there. Do you think the reason he had to step up is because even as a political leader, looking at his own political future, Ruth, he could see if he doesn't stamp his authority, then clearly the former PM will take that space and run with it. He'll make use of that political capital.
But yeah, I mean, he's entitled in his own. Let's not forget that he has the right to have political ambitions. He has the right to launch the political ambitions at whatever time he wishes. But he needed, this was a political arrangement between him and the president. And in my own view, he chose the wrong time to begin his political bid for 2022.
Okay.
He would have started, let's say, a year before the actual campaigns, it would have made sense. But 1 year into leadership, that was too soon.
Let me bring it back to studio then and bring it to Derek, even as we start winding up the conversation. We have around 2 minutes to go before we wind this up. Is DP Ruto guilty of the sin of campaigning, or what from where you stand? Why is he outside on a government that he's number 2 in?
I think it's more of Ruto himself and his acolytes, Murkomen, Sudi, and his base. They've always had this thing in their mind, at the back of their mind, that Ruto should be there alone, which cannot happen anywhere. The simple fact that Raila Odinga was invited into government, I think he was only invited to the Uhuru Kenyatta side of it. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, as Ruth said, there was a vacuum that was created. And probably Raila Odinga could have used that vacuum to propel his ambitions. And that vacuum belonged to William Samoei Ruto. And unfortunately, immediately after that, we started hearing snippets from the ODM side and from some Uhuru Kenyatta side. And there was so much that was going on until one point in, was it in Nyeri or Murang'a? I can't remember very well, but I was in the office where we had 2 rallies. One was supposed to be a Uhuru Kenyatta rally, and there was another one for William Ruto. Apparently, the William Ruto one took off, and the Uhuru did not turn up for that particular function. And you see, that is part of the motions that triggered all this mess we are seeing in the country. And when we have rabble-rousers like Murathe in the mix, and then you have propagandists hanging around, you will always get a concoction of the worst political scenario you will get, and Jubilee are currently having a bit of that.
And you can see that play out. You have a minute to go before we wind up. So quickly, a parting shot from each of you. Let me start with Mark. Very quickly, what's your parting shot this morning as we get into the weekend?
To me, I think right now, especially with this situation we have in the country, we've spoken about a lot of things, We've spoken about the corruption at KEMSA, the politics of the day when it comes to the president and deputy president, we've got to think about our country first. We've got to think about people. People are out there. People are suffering. All these issues we're talking about are affecting Kenyans out there. Okay. But we're not dealing with the issues Kenyans are that require. So I think it's very important that we get our government, and more so the president, deputy president, right? Can we just get through this pandemic before we have 2 years to an election?
Okay. Okay.
Let's wait. We will deal with it at that time when the time comes.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Ruth, very quickly, what's your parting shot this morning?
My parting shot is that the wheels of justice this time round need to spin a bit faster because in the middle of a pandemic, it is unfortunate that we are finding ourselves in a situation where billions of shillings are disappearing from public coffers in a span of very few months. So I think that the investigative authorities need to do their work and ensure that this time round, whoever is responsible for the loss of money that was meant to push on Kenyans from the effects of COVID-19 is actually brought to book.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And very quickly, Derek, 10 seconds on yours. What's your parting shot? Very quickly.
I would love a weekend of peace in this country, number one. Number two, I would want to hear something new about what we are doing. Let's stay away from KEMSA. I don't think we'll get to the bottom of it in the coming few weeks, but somebody should be bold enough to tell us what happened and who did it.
Okay, and that's where we leave it as far as it's concerned. Thank you so much, Derek Otieno, Mark Mwenje, for your time and coming to studio. Thank you so much for that. On Skype was Ruth Ambogo, just giving some analysis to the big stories of the day. But I do have some airtime that I need to finish up with before I leave this particular segment. Let's have that up on screen. Okay, Keith from Eldoret, giving us his copy of the People Daily right there. You get yourself 250 shillings worth of airtime. Do you have another winner? Let's have it up. John Kenothia from Embakasi West. Congratulations, John. You also get yourself 250 shillings worth of airtime. Another winner. Juliet from Eldoret. Eldoret really tuned into the show as well, and they've all gotten themselves 250 shillings worth of airtime. It's brought to you by the People Daily and Safaricom. It could be you, but you have to be in it to win it, and that's by downloading your copy of your People Daily *550*4#. Once again, the number is *550*4#. Download your copy of the People Daily. It's brought to you by the PD and Safaricom. We take a short break right now. It's Hangout Friday Interactive up next. This is K24 This Morning.